Hey everyone, cards on the table. This is my third time recording this video. It has been painful as an experience. I realized that my microphone was absolutely awful and that was part of the cause of some of my audio issues. So fingers crossed that this works out now. But thank you so much for checking these videos out. It really means a lot to me. And thank you for putting up with the audio issues so far. I appreciate it. But without further ado, let's jump in and take another look at the strongest Earth in the multiverse, Dragon Ball Edition. Have fun, y'all! It had been 3 months bouncing around the planet so far. America, China, Latveria, and now just outside of Wakanda. It was interesting. Everybody knew the place was there. They had revealed themselves a while back, but nobody could see it. Looking at it was like looking at nothing but a wide plain. Congratulations, 3 days of staring at an abyss, Muesli said, joining him in the morning sun. She was right, they were just ignoring him, not that he expected any less. If anyone on the planet noticed us landing, it was them. You can feel it, right? He asked. Gohan's mild martial arts training taught them the basics of ki sense. Most of the power levels on the inside weren't particularly impressive, but one was above average. That, and with their technological skill, it made him hard to believe that they couldn't help them get stronger. For all he knew, this could be the relationship between the Kryptonians and the Saiyans again, and that would be a major win. Yeah, I can feel it, and I can see it, she narrowed her eyes. A cerulean's sight was more keen than almost anyone else's. She could see the warbling of the hyper-advanced camouflaging technology against the sky. Everything was almost exactly where it should be, more or less a centimeter give or take. So, to recap, our time on this planet is going to be spent waiting for a miracle. You're welcome to bust down the door. I'm sure they couldn't stop us, Bardock spat. But good luck getting help after that. I don't need help. You're the one on the revenge quest, Muesli replied, staring at her son, who was smiling. He hadn't been able to get away from Bardock's boys, the one he was related to or the son that he had taken in, but Muesli could see he was actually trying to care for them, even if he wasn't particularly good at it. Little Granola, her boy, was tossing the other two in the air, laughing along with them, having fun, like they were family, brothers. He was so young, it wasn't surprising that he had been able to adapt quicker. She just hadn't expected him to move on so quickly. He was even dressing like the people of this planet. Well, they all were, but he had taken to it quicker, a lot easier. It was exactly what she wanted in so many ways, but it felt so strange. She snapped her eyes away from her boy. If our little training of the world is going to pause here, then we might as well keep training in this location, she replied. She hadn't really considered what they'd been doing training, stopping bandits here and there, getting involved in fights against opposed gangs. None of it was anything major, but it was exercise, and it had got them to know the people of this planet. She had to admit they had a certain charm to them. Bardock nodded. Might as well. 1v1. Or you want a partner? Bardock asked. Muesli scoffed. It was irritating that the gap in power between the two was so big. Bardock explained it to her a while ago, the Frieza Force's rating system. It put him around 11,000. Her, maybe about 2,000. Of course, they hadn't been able to check it again. Using a scouter on this world would be a beacon to the Frieza Force brighter than this planet's sun. She didn't need the stupid things, though. She could feel the difference. He could bliss her in a second. Her spotting of pressure points was about the only thing that could close the gap. 1v1, like always, she narrowed her eyes, Bardock shrugging as he put his fists up. Alright then, go. I spy with my little eye, Peter began. No, Raditz replied, almost immediately. Come on, man, Peter said, putting his feet up on the dash of his ship. We're on a run, you can have a little more fun with it, he replied, knowing his co-pilot was still fuming over the Yondu of it all. Yondu took one look at the boy and decided he wasn't going to let an idiot kid like him light a beacon to Peter's homeworld. Like someone would be after Earth if Raditz screwed up. Sure, Frieza might, but Yondu didn't seem remotely concerned about the space tyrant. Tell you what, boy. You prove you can handle yourself, handle keeping a low profile without blabbing about us or the boy here, and I'll drop your ass off on Earth myself. It wasn't like Raditz had a choice. It was either that or get dropped off on the nearest planet without a ship. Or kill the Ravagers and take the ship for himself, and wander aimlessly through space for the rest of his life. If he even could. The space pirates had much, much better gear than the Nova Corps had. They had a pretty good chance of containing him if they all worked together, and considering that they all swore fealty to the Blue Man, that meant he was a Ravager now, at least temporarily. A damn space pirate. You do know what fun is, right? Peter asked. Of course I'm aware of fun. You just tend not to have it when you grow up with a foot on your neck, Raditz scoffed. Yeah, that Freezer guy, right? Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe. Peter laughed, cutting Raditz off. You know, I've had to deal with Kree, the Skrulls, the Lanterns. You're the first person who's ever even mentioned this Frieza guy to me, he said, Raditz pausing as he did. Peter was right. Frieza seemed to be something of a passing thought for most Ravagers. He did find it odd that most of the ship didn't mention him. The territory we're in right now, buddy, it's unclaimed. Everybody's fighting over it. We're not in the evil lizard space. He comes in here, an accuser's gonna be after him, and he'll get crushed. You, my friend, have nothing to worry about, Peter continued. I have nothing to worry about, Raditz murmured, his mind reeling. Had he really not had to worry about Frieza out here? He never even considered that. Even on this Earth planet, he was sure his family was going to have to live in hiding their whole life. Exactly. Welcome to the outlaw life, bud. Peter clapped Raditz on the shoulder. Raditz paused. How exactly does this I Spy work? He asked as the two blazed through the stars. It was week 3 of camping outside the Wakandan border. The group had mostly taken to exploring the area, helping the locals if they needed it. There were quite a few armored groups around seeking to exploit the local populace. Taking them out wasn't a very difficult task. Decent way to stretch their legs. Finally, though, something happened. On the 3rd week exactly. Someone came through the border. It opened, just barely, enough for them to make their way through. Only for them to be surrounded by soldiers. The staffs and blades they held tightly didn't seem intimidating on their own, but Bardock could feel the energy emanating off of them. Muesli narrowed her eyes at them, easily seeing that they weren't normal. Not only were they technological in nature, they were advanced enough to probably do a lot of damage to them. Bardock was right. This could be a worthwhile trip. Bardock raised his hands above his head, Granola following his lead and Guinea following behind. Muesli, however, refused. She wasn't about to surrender to anybody, even as a show of peace. She didn't want to be on her knees again. The lead soldier, a general, jumped off the rhinoceros she rode, walking up to Bardock and staring him dead in the eyes. What business do you have in the land of Wakanda? To speak to the one in charge of it. The Black Panther is the only one on this planet who might be able to help me get stronger. Bardock sighed. You know damn well what I am. It would have been real hard for you to miss, even with our technology keeping us hidden. You guys are ahead of the curve with this world by quite a bit. Feel free to correct me. The woman paused. You are an alien, the woman replied. I do not see. Me, those boys, those women over there, we're the last of our people. There's a force out there that's bigger than all of us. If I wanted to, I could wipe this whole damn planet off the map. It's not a threat, it's just a statement. That guy out there makes me look like nothing in comparison. Bardock replied, the other soldiers looking at each other, and then him. And this person, you're saying he's coming here? She asked. Unlikely, Bardock replied. That's why he picked this place to take up shop. But he killed my planet. He killed theirs. 60 billion dead over the course of a few days. And now he's unchecked, spreading throughout the universe like a cancer that needs to be plucked. And you intend to be the one who does the plucking? The woman asked, Bardock nodding. We have seen what you are capable of. If you wanted to start trouble, you certainly could have, but if this issue doesn't affect Wakanda... It won't, Muesli cut in. If you're lucky, you'll never have to see his fleets, and if you weren't already heading down that path, we never would have come here. She stared at Bardock's irritated glare, and Guinea's disappointment, and her son's confusion. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I want him dead, Muesli continued. That bastard sent fleets to crush my world, but more than that, I just never want to have to think about him again. To be afraid of him again. As long as he's around, I will never have that peace. As long as I can't defend myself. Muesli put her head down, the woman trying to look to her eyes. I am sorry for what you have gone through, but I cannot... She stopped herself, pressing a hand to her temple, her eyes widening. My king, Yes, my king. She stopped, her eyes turning to the people in front of her. King T'Chaka wishes to speak with you, she said in surprise. She silently led the family among the Wakandans, throughout the cleanest city that Bardock had ever seen. The people out in the streets talked with an ease that reminded him of Krypton. The buildings that soared through the sky seemed to thrive in a way that reminded him of his own son. Not a single homeless person on the streets. The resemblance between this place and the home of roused children was uncanny, to say the least. Aside from the glares of the crowd staring at the unfamiliar visitors that were encroaching on their homes. It didn't take long before they were brought before a palace even more grand than Vegeta's had been back on his planet, and before him, the Black Panther, in the full suit that Bardock had seen. Online, it looked more impressive in person. It almost glowed in a way that he hadn't expected. He stood up, walking up to Bardock. As he expected, the man's power was nowhere near his level. He could feel that from a mile away, but he was definitely stronger than the others in this place. And with the tech this place was sporting, he'd be stupid to think that this guy was just a suit. "You've been outside my home for quite some time," he said, walking toward the group. "You simply wait. You do not threaten, you do not break in, you simply let yourselves be known and be patient. Nobody has acted in such a manner to date." "Yeah, that tracks," Bardock replied. "You were the one who revealed this place to the world, right?" "No, that was not me," T'Chaka replied. "That would be one of my ancestors, but I have continued their traditions. I have done so because I cannot simply stand by and watch people outside Wakanda suffer. Unfortunately, suffering on the outside is more common than fish in the sea, something that you seem to have noticed. You get yourselves involved in quite a bit. We've kept an eye on your progress throughout our world, just in case you would become a problem, and yet you haven't been, for anyone except those who wish to oppress." Muesli looked at Bardock. It was true. She and the Saiyans had prevented numerous situations that would have created mirrors of her own tragedy, all in the name of traveling and training. Even she had begun to see the whole thing as business as usual. She stopped thinking about what kind of impact she had. But the smiles on the faces of those who she had helped had now flashed through her skull with a quicker ferocity than she had ever expected. "I think I might have a proposal for people like you, if you wish to hear it." Bardock looked at the man. "Yeah, I'll hear you out." Nolan watched them from the comfort of his ship, the people blasting the planet away below him. This would be as good a test as any. He needed to know what the people he had picked up were capable of. Vegeta knew he couldn't hold back. He was a Saiyan, he was a warrior of light that the universe used to look to for protection. Yamoshi would probably look down on his family for their actions. But to hell with that bastard. He was dead, and Vegeta had to keep on living. Especially since Nolan had sent them to a hell planet. Bug people, power levels in the 8,000s. Lower than his, sure, but enough of them together were proving to be a problem. He hunkered down, taking his scouter off, as Anissa did the same next to him. "How many have we lost?" Vegeta questioned, spitting on the ground. "Well, we came with a command of 10, and there are 5 left, including our squad," Anissa said, cracking her neck. "You did well so far. I didn't expect a modern Saiyan to be so ruthless." "Your people know very little of mine," Vegeta spat. "I know all I need to," she taunted. "For now," Vegeta replied. "So, I was right. You are planning something. Interesting." She smirked as the towns behind them burned, blasted to ash in an instant by Nappa's giant storms. She launched herself up, throwing a punch at Vegeta, as he grabbed it, throwing her to the ground with one hand. "Heh, you weren't that strong before," she smirked, throwing herself forward again. Vegeta maintained his lead, but her speed soon picked up. She swung with more fury than he expected. The gap between them was smaller than he anticipated. He focused for a moment, bursting his ki outwards to throw her back. As he rushed forward, throwing a punch with his full force behind it to her stomach, making her cough up blood in response as she spun. He kicked her in the head, sending her back only for the girl to grab his tail, flinging him into the wall with her. They both picked themselves out of the rubble at the same time, Anissa laughing hysterically. "You. I like you. You don't hold back. Your little rebellion might actually work someday," she spat on the ground, Vegeta staring. "How did you..." "Please, you don't hide your disdain for any of us. Right now the higher-ups aren't worried. The gap between you and them is the gap between an ant and a boot." She straightened up. "A few people under you. You could probably get that many. With your power, you could actually probably knuckle under a few dozen of Frieza's lackeys." "I don't give a damn about that," I could gather a horde of sniveling little weaklings, but they might turn on me at any point. Not a single one of them would fight for me without a gun at their back, or save me if it wouldn't benefit them. Of course not. Oh, you want loyalty. Real loyalty. That's a pretty old notion, especially from someone who killed his own crewmate not too long ago. She scoffed. Vegeta's eye twitched. His pride as a Saiyan didn't love that he was being accused of murdering his own, but it wasn't like he didn't set that up. Radish was his soldier, his crew, under his protection. If he was here for any longer, he wouldn't have lasted. He was too soft to deal with Viltrumite rule. You're an interesting guy, Prince of all Saiyans. Tell me, what's your goal? Your real goal? What happens if you gain all this power? Let's say you win. You gonna take over the Frieza Force? Rule with an iron fist? Try to reform it? Obliterate it, Vegeta replied, his anger surging. He wasn't sure how this girl would respond to him. He wasn't sure what she wanted to hear, but given how viciously she fought, he might as well try the truth. Everyone involved in my planet's obliteration will face their own, wiped off the face of the universe. You want to kill every living Viltrumite? Anissa asked, staring into Vegeta's eyes and seeing no hesitation. And you want help from a Viltrumite for that? You are fun. She grinned wildly. I was worried you'd be like every other Frieza Force nobody, only in to climb the ladder instead of bringing it down. Tell me, do you include me in that list of people to die? Vegeta stared at her, his father's last words over the scouter replaying in his mind. You are vengeance. I just might, Vegeta answered truthfully. Well, now I have to see how this ends. Tell you what, let's keep getting stronger together. If you get strong enough to rival, let's say, Zarbon in the next few years, consider it a deal. You'll have my loyalty. For how long? Vegeta asked. As long as you want, she smirked, cracking her knuckles. Deal, Vegeta smirked, Anissa already walking back outside to continue her rampage. Vegeta got up too. He had somewhat acquired a new ally. Now he just had to live long enough to make sure he could make her useful. Hey everybody, I just want to say thanks for joining and watching this episode, and thanks for putting up with my voice issues so far. Hopefully, that shouldn't be a problem anymore. And as always, I hope you all have a great day. Bye now!